all set to go.
All right, we're ready to go.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, for coming to tonight's meeting of the Sewer Advisory Committee. We'll get started right away with the approval of the minutes from August 15th.
So moved.
They're quick, I'm
He
telling
is
you.
quick. Everyone had a chance to look at those.
Yes.
Second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstention.
Abstention? And any discussion? Onward then to the capital projects update. Yeah, you're on.
So I have the
Short meeting.
CIP storage building.
You should introduce yourself. to
Oh,
the
hey,
again.
I am Marty Graybell, the plant manager for West Sound Utility Swerf. And so I have the CIP storage building updates. Roof trusses were delivered in September and are being put up by Swerf staff. Sheeting will also be put up by our staff. Contracted roofer, 5 roofing contractors, 4 of them agreed to bid on the roof install, currently awaiting bids on that. Anticipate project completion prior to the end of year. The CIP centrifuge replacement, screw press installation is complete. Installation of the trailer load scale system began October 1st. Concrete walls were poured Tuesday, October 9th. The slab pour is set for Thursday, the 11th of October. Finished concrete is a week out, scheduled for the week of October 15th. Swerf staff prepared treatment processes for this scale project by emptying and cleaning 1 digester and bringing all other solids tanks down gradually to minimum levels to prepare for a 6-week project with no biosolids removal. Extra biosolids were removed and hauled off site prior to project start to accommodate. Biosolids trailer was also removed off site to accommodate space needed for the project. CIP membrane replacement. The membrane system modifications and membrane replacement is on schedule for completion by the end of November. Modifications include updated programming, updated membrane modules which can be replaced and repaired independently, and reduced weight on the frames. Swerf staff have 1 MBR train ready for install and are almost complete on the final tank clean and maintenance. Suez programmer is set to be on site Monday, November 5th to inventory equipment and get a head start on programming before the cassette install crew shows up. The idea is to have a programming almost complete so when the new cassette's installed, they're ready to operate. Cassette install crew set to begin Tuesday, November 13th, and estimated 5 days per 10 cassettes.
How many cassettes are there altogether?
20.
Oh,
So they're gonna work 1 week,
sure.
take the holiday off, and come back the next week to finish. And hopefully the programming will all be completed because it was prior.
Right.
And when's that start?
So the November 5th, the programmer will be on site,
Okay.
and the 13th is a Tuesday. So that's when it starts because of the holiday.
Oh, correct.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when they'll be on site to install the cassettes. That is all I have.
Wow,
Wow, thank you.
yes. Moving right along. The budget?
Okay. Well, as you know, it's budget time once again. We just completed a biennial budget for the Swerf. We're going to transition into an annual budget for the Swerf. One of the reasons for that is that we were budgeting for a biennial budget, but we were actually operating under an annual budget. And with a lot of the dynamics, the upcoming permit and all the things that are going on, and the potential for having to make modifications in the budget for allocation of funds depending on what the final permit is and those type of things, we just felt that it was best to go to an annual budget. Not only that, it gives Marty an opportunity to be a lot more involved over the next year, not wait a 2-year period and then dump him into a budget cycle so that we can kind of get him going and keep him up to speed. There's a couple items in here, but not very many. You'll find that it's laid out and very similar to previous budgets. One thing that I would ask that you do is that you read the budget message when you have a chance. On page...
I have to take this home.
Yeah, I didn't have time to
Reading
make
material.
the, what do you call it, the
When you
ebook
have
or
nothing
for
better to do.
your phone,
I
but...
just want to confirm, 'cause
Yeah.
sometimes you give another copy to council, but
Yeah, and this one is for you folks to review, go through it, see if you have any questions, and then sometime in November, we'll be taking this to our board to approve. But I want to make sure that everybody has it, has plenty of time to go through it, and be assured that any of the questions you may have can be answered.
And Randy, one of the questions that I had from the clerk's office was whether or not you were gonna wanna come make a presentation, and if so, what date that would be.
To the council.
Right.
We put a tentative placeholder on for, I believe, the 23rd?
Is that it?
Does that sound right?
Of what, October?
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Make your life easy.
But don't quote me on that, I'm just.
Right. So I can contact Randy and find out what's going on. So, yeah.
If you wanted to.
Right. So, one of the things, if you look on page 2 that I did add in here, starting with the second paragraph, is, as you know, we're getting working towards the end of our debt horizon for those 2 public fund, works trust fund loans that expire in 22 and 24. And one of the things that I'm proposing is that in our capital fund, we create a capital reserve account and we start funding money into that capital reserve account, and you'll see the proposed account funding down below in the table. And the reason for that is if we go back to the 20-year capital improvement plan, you'll see that there's actually 2 sheets in here, one with and one without the capital reserve funding. This is your fold-out sheet, 11 by 17.
Oh,
And one of the things that is potentially concerning is the amount of growth that may be happening in the district and the city. And we want to make sure that if there is an accelerated growth rate in our area that is to be served by sewer, both the city and the district are in a position to be able to pull the trigger, so to speak, and have enough funding down the road in 30, 34, that if we do have to have some major modification based on permitting requirements, or that we do need to do some expansion, if you notice there is an identified expansion in 23 of the membranes, that there, and we will be in a life cycle, end of life cycle on our current membrane, that we have enough money in there so that we can support those kind of things and not have to go out for any large long-term debt like we previously did. Worst thing in the world would be to get out of debt and turn around and jump right back into debt. So I'm trying to help prepare us so that we don't end up in that situation again. I think that it's been hard for both the city and the district to kind of stomach having to pay that debt back, and one of the unfortunate things, when you do borrow the money, you do have to pay it back. If you go to page 3, you'll notice that our 2019 budget is a little less than it was in 2000.
Question?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't
Oh,
want to
sorry.
interrupt. This is really nice how this is laid out in a 20-year look. Just out of, and you have the different wedges in here for equipment replacement or upgrade.
Yeah,
You know,
it is a good tool, but it's hard to project out 20
Right,
years.
but what I was wondering about is this at the, what we would assume, the average replacement timeline, or in some cases, some of these might be done earlier, or some of them could be pushed back later, depending upon how the equipment's running and the plant's running.
Right. And, the one interesting thing about a treatment plant, that's really a hard question to answer. And the reason why is because of the rotation of equipment. Sometimes the amount of equipment we have doesn't run throughout the year. We shut some of it down. There's rotation on it. There's equipment there that's been there for 15 years that doesn't have a lot of hours on it. Then we'll bring that equipment on and use that as a primary, those type of things. So our best guess estimate on the life of the equipment, and sometimes when we look at equipment in the facility, what we find is that sometimes we're able, at a better cost, usually 50% or less, to have some kind of modification or component replacement or something like that, and then extend the life of that out for a period of time. And then we weigh that value against the cost of new equipment and the life
Right.
cycle of that. So it is very dynamic.
Yeah, very cool, nice, thank you. Thanks, Jerry.
On page 3, you'll notice that 2018 budget is 3.66 million, down a little bit. Now keep in mind that the operating budget did increase a little bit, and the capital improvement projects have reduced. We don't have as many, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. There's really no proposed staffing changes. One thing that is in the salaries is a 3.5% cost of living increase for 2019. The current CPI, the first half of 2018 was at 3.3. The annual for August is 3.1, and we're still working out how we're going to take and define a clear quarter and portion of those for the CPI. Also, we're currently doing a review of other municipal sewer treatment facility salary schedules and benefits. Doing an evaluation of those at the time. And what you'll find is there's actually a 4.2% increase put into the salaries budget to assure that if we need to adjust any salaries to remain competitive and retain people, we do have the funding available. Not much has changed with the operating fund. In 2019, based on the winter ERU counts, the district has 5,827. The city has 5,699. And if you remember, we have a ERU rate for revenue funding of the sewer treatment plant at $22.50 per ERU, and then an additional $1 of that goes into the capital, or additional $1 per ERU for going into the capital fund. The equipment repair and replacement fund, if you actually look back at the funding, we're actually not putting any money into that this year. It's for our contractors' equipment vehicles, and that fund currently has approximately 190, close to $200,000 in it. So we're fully funded to replace any vehicles or contractors' equipment that we currently have. That was a program that started several years ago that we funded, and now we're to the point it's basically a self-sufficient fund. We don't need to look to funding that until we have to start replacing some of our contractors' equipment and vehicles. There's 3 capital projects that are slated for 2019. Those projects are total $135,000. And then again, we're asking the city and the district contribute $200,000 into the capital fund to help with the debt payments also. And we're continuing with our contract with Waste Management. We did receive leachate, and approximately $70,000 was billed by the district. The city also billed out for its charge for discharging into your system, and that money that comes to SQURF goes directly into the capital fund also. Looking,
The debt service is continued. We're already doing that, right? We're just continuing. It's not a new.
it's not new. Yeah. So 2022, the first debt's paid off, and if you come back to page 2, you will see the loan schedule. This does not include the interest payments. That's simply the loan amounts that are due. And we did not include any interest because there's some variability over that period of time in the reserve account balance, because, you know, it would be a best guess. Looking at the capital projects for 2019, there are 3 as I spoke of. I'm going to go through those just a little bit to kind of update you on what's going on. We want to have an, let's see. I'm looking.
13, 14, 15.
13, 14, 15? Yeah. There we go. Here we go. You're looking at pages 21 and 22.
Behind the orange?
Behind the orange. So we have some exterior coatings. Now, if you folks remember, this is something that we had put off, and for the installation of the screw press, we felt that we did not want to spend the money for the coatings and the solids building underneath until all the work was completed, so that we didn't get in there and mess up new coatings. Sharples centrifuge maintenance and repair. This is the centrifuge that was used heavily during the transition from the old centrifuge for dewatering to the screw press. And it's time to take it apart, have it rebuilt, balance, whatever else needs to be done. And also we want to do an engineering assessment of the conventional activated sludge aeration system. We've gone through the plant over several years and, worked on fine tuning and optimizing things. One of the problems that the facility has, and I'm sure Marty has realized this, is that during the upgrades in 2006, they put a multitude of controls into the aeration system, and the controls have a hard time balancing themselves. A couple reasons for that. One is because of the city's marina pump station. The flows are so dynamic. The flow can be 250 gallons a minute and then go up to 1,800 gallons within a few seconds. The systems chase constantly trying to adapt, and they cannot adapt fast enough. So what we're looking at is to have an engineering company come in, look at the system, not only for the current situation, but future situations, to be able to optimize that air distribution and improve the efficiency of the removals from the secondary system. The second part of that is that that may offer us an opportunity in the future to be able to potentially re-rate the facility for a lesser cost than it would be to expand more membranes. We're looking basically at $1.2 million to expand the membranes. If we could get away with a re-rate for $50,000 or $75,000, then that may be a cheaper alternative if we can improve that efficiency in that system. We're not sure if we can or not. Either way, we still need to have good aeration control for good biological activity to be able to improve our removal rates. This may also help us in the future in regards to nutrient removals and some of the nutrient monitoring that's has begun the last permitting cycle and continues on through this one. So that pretty much covers the capital projects, and that's one of the main reasons that you see a diminishment in the overall budget amount for the SWRF. The org chart has really not changed, and one of the things that was included in here for you folks to take a look at was the professional training, and that is on page 17, or minor capital outlay, 18, for staff, the training schedule, and then on 17 is the capital outlay. Some of these you've seen over and over again, such as equipment replacement, instrumentation upgrades to improve efficiencies in the system, and just a couple of things that need to be replaced and repaired. Basically in the system that we don't really want to identify as capital projects, but they are capital outlays that need to be done. And it gives us a little more flexibility to be able to do those one at a time and not go through that whole process of one capital project. ERU counts, I think everybody received this. This is the numbers that were currently sent out. And then also on page 15 is a summary from 1998 to 2019 of the ERU counts and the annual growth within the city and the district based on the ERU counts. Any questions?
I do have two general questions, and they're not specific to this, they're just general.
Okay.
One is that I think you mentioned rates, and that jogged my memory that, I think, and as I understand it on a high level, our areas and your areas charge different rates, and we're trying to align that. Was that something that I think the mayor spoke to you about?
Yes, the mayor and I met, and what we had talked about was a cooperative process for the city and the district to have a consulting company assess our utilities, our O&M costs, and our assets to help us determine what was really a realistic and reasonable general facility charges and rates that we should be charging. The other thing that we discussed was between the elected officials and rate setting, there has been over the years a kind of sense that we don't want to step on your toes by increasing rates, and the city doesn't want to step on ours, and we may have hurt ourselves. And we really need to take a hard look at what the rates need to be to support, O&M costs, and then bring those back to our elected officials so that they can make an informed decision on what those rates need to be.
sort of standardizing, I guess, in a sense.
And one of the things we talked about was, you know, trying to align and make sure that when we are looking at things, for instance, for the ERUs for the treatment facility, that we're accounting for and defining ERUs in a similar capacity. Because I think there's some variance there, and, you know, it may be that it might be a better balance, or that it would be more equitable if we were looking at them, you know, in the same manner for the purpose of funding this work.
And also, we're looking at a lot of lines that we have to replace on the water, especially for asbestos cement. And we gotta look at where should we be, really? We haven't been replacing that many lines, but we're behind schedule, really, and I imagine the city's in the same shape. But we should look at it as a group and say, you know, where are we at?
I
And
think the whole area
and
is
what, yeah, and what should we be funding, and then, you know, to have different rates between us don't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, you know, the person that raises the rates, in the past, we'd raise our rates, and then, you know, then the next time you guys raise your rates, but it would make more sense if we were more connected as far as being able to replace our assets as we need them, and that way we look like we're, you know, more connected rather than, you know, one raises, and, you know, you guys are raising water quite a bit, and we know we need to raise water, but we should be kind of more connected, so that makes sense for the whole community. And it doesn't make one of us look, you know, like, what the hell are they doing in there, and what are they doing up here, and, you know, so that we all look like we're, got a plan.
Well, the question comes down that we've had the same one was, how you try to separate operations and maintenance from infrastructure.
Yeah,
Now, I can argue both ways, that yes, they are tied, and no, you want them to be tied, but, you know, and so when you have a huge infrastructure problem, how do you fund that? Well, do you want to fund it through rates? Well, then you have to answer the question, well, is that part of, you know, if you need a new storage tank, is that part of operations and maintenance? And some people say, well, yeah, it is, but then they go, well, no, that's part of your infrastructure, or that's what
could be from growth.
Yeah.
yeah, so,
Taken care
but
of.
that goes back and forth. But then when you do get in a hole and you have to do them, what do you do then?
Yeah. And,
So it's
and,
explained to the public your
Yeah.
rationale. So that's where Randy was kind of, and the city, we're like, let's slow down here, let's get some good
Professional,
third
yeah.
person.
Kind of like the Marina pump station kind
Right,
of deal,
right,
right?
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a few of our own that were,
yeah.
Not like that one.
no, I'll give you that. That's-
Yeah.
That's
You
more
win
than
the
that.
award.
Yeah, we do, don't we?
You win.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, we had a 2 million plus one we looked at last night for replacing a booster pump station, an underground reservoir, and
yeah.
it just, how do you, yeah.
And then where are you gonna fund the money from? Should our ERUs be higher for each of us? You know, for the hookups. You know, where are we at? Are we really, you know, we had one study said we should be at $9,000. But if we raise to $9,000 and you guys stay at $6,000 or whatever, then, yeah, I mean, you know,
That's the problem.
it just looks like we're into a real connection. But if we do a study together and we agree that whatever we need to do, we gotta do, then we're not gonna be, you know, we'll be funding what we need, not looking at, you know, trying to, in the past, you could be, you know, lower by quite a bit, or one of us, and that ain't right. I think we should be looking at.
But they may come back and say that the GFCs need to be different, because the
Right.
fact of Port Orchard is
Well,
5 times bigger and with their structure of infrastructure, and so it may come back and say,
Yeah.
you need this much, and so
Yeah.
I think
What's
that's,
interesting is that the districts and the city boundaries overlap.
Correct.
Right.
That's where it's even
And see,
more
that's
interesting.
Yeah.
where you have,
But I completely, I think we all agree that we do think there needs to be a concerted effort. Um, And I know that some philosophy on council has been that a lot of the infrastructure should maybe be funded by the growth as opposed to the existing ratepayers.
Correct.
Correct.
I think everybody always has that plan.
yeah, we always,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
when
But if you don't
it
charge
comes down,
them-
when you need the money for,
Yeah.
where's it gonna come from, and
Yeah.
either you're gonna borrow it, where you need to raise rates to cover the
The debt.
interest that
Mhm.
you've now added on to paying back, and so you try to find the most reasonable, but I think, yeah, just get some information that's sound and got a bottom line, what you need, and so if I'm gonna say yes or no, I need to have something that's more than, Randy had a dream last night, and this is what he thinks we should do.
One of the reasons we wanted to do this cooperatively was simply because we do have a very common infrastructure. We do serve people within the city. And one of the things we wanted to do was not both of us pay the full boat for the study. If they're already doing it and we're providing the information, then we can split that cost and it would be lesser for both of us.
So when are you thinking of doing that?
Are you passing the buck off that I'm gonna spearhead this?
I'm
No.
just, I'm asking, you
No.
must have an idea.
So the
Actually,
discussion.
I don't know who's spearheading.
Yeah, back to
it,
your
so that's
dream,
why,
quick.
yeah.
So-
Go back to
He
your
said there was
Yeah.
a dream.
Yeah.
My best recollection in discussions with the mayor and Noah was that we would meet in January and touch base again and then start the process of looking for this to begin in 2019 for it to initiate and be completed in 2020. Because I believe you folks have a comp plan that's due in 2020
Mhm.
and ours is due in 2019.
I see.
Yeah, so we're trying to
Yeah.
line up
Do you have any
everything.
idea at all of what that would cost? Do you have
I do not. The rate study that we had performed was very limited, and I believe it was approximately $20,000.
I was gonna say 50.
Yeah.
50?
Well, it was
I
only,
have no idea.
it was only for general
I'd read that
facility
figure,
charges.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would,
I would imagine it'd be 50 with both entities and all
or a
the
little more,
complexity.
but
Oh, yeah.
each is gonna probably be between $25,000 and $50,000 for each
Yeah.
of us, I would estimate. But we would have to basically provide the information to the consultants and then have them come back with a cost for that.
And then we'll know how much we should be charging per ERU. And we'll also know where we need to do our rates, because we know we're behind and we gotta do something, but it'd be nice to be saying, okay, this is the amount for a hookup for sewer or water, and we have a pretty much the same figure so that we go from there. And the idea is to make growth pay more of the scale. They have not been paying their fair share in the past. On either
I think
end.
we agree.
Yeah, you have similar,
Yeah.
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 Okay, that's where we were kind of looking at it.
And you know, one of the other things that we discussed, since we both have utilities, is that we share information that we get. So, you know, if we need to do something and we come across information, there's no reason we shouldn't share that with the city and vice versa, just so that we can each have benefit and have cost savings from things that each of us do.
And if the market is as tight on bidding, there may be, sometimes you get a small project, you don't get the bids you need. But maybe if we connect it with several projects, maybe we can get a better bid. I mean, it's an ideal. We haven't ever explored that between us, but it's something that we might look at. I don't know, just throwing it out.
And
there.
it's
throwing it out
something
there,
that has
yeah.
been
Yeah.
discussed about, especially if we do contracting projects and you have similar projects, that we work together, perhaps lessen some of those mobilization fees. Their crews are on site, they have more work for an extended period of time, maybe we get a better rate because they're not in and out and traveling and those type of things. So those are things to look at that we could both benefit from. Just simply working cooperatively together.
Like you've been doing that before also with the county, we've already done some things, like,
Yeah.
what's the one up on, we just talked last night about,
On,
Windsor.
your street.
Oh, Lindstrom.
Lindstrom.
Yeah, because the county, because we need to do some work and the county wants to do an overlay and they're kind of waiting for us and, you know,
So
just
we-
kind of so that we're in the ground together at the same
We don't
time.
go in and do our work and pave, and then
Right.
come back 6 months later and dig it back up and
Right,
pave again.
right.
We tear up the road, they've already got their paving set, we
Yeah.
do the temp patch, they come back and do their overlays and patch, and then we're not paying for all of that, you know, maintenance bonding and all that, because it's all taken care of during the overlay.
And what we've done with the county, which I think makes sense, is that when we do have it, we have them do the paving. In other words, it's to their standards, in other words, you know, we can do it to their standards, and then anything goes wrong, then they say, well, you didn't do this right. And it's a big hassle. It's easier to pay them to do the paving. And, you know, we pay what they say is a fair share, and then we go from there. And it just makes it simpler who's, you know, in other words, we don't have two inspections. You have one inspection done by the county. And it could be done the same with the city when you guys are improving the road and we need to get in there and improve whether sewer, water, whatever. By working together, I think it makes more sense than, you know, having these two separate things in one shot. I guess we're just trying to work better with for the ratepayer, because that's what
We don't
whose
need to
bottom
support each
line's
other.
paying this.
We don't need, we're all here to serve and provide the same thing, to service to our ratepayers. And we're not in competition, we need to work together.
And I think I felt that we've been very, very much partners. I do have a question, and I'm sorry if this is going to be really vague, but I sent you an email of a press release of, was it DOE? They gave out some awards for, was it water quality?
Regarding water quality. So how those work is they do them on an annual basis based on permitting submittals to ecology. If all your permits are turned in on a timely basis, if there are no errors, and you have no violations of your permit, then they will issue you an outstanding award.
Like it's a
for the
gold
year.
star or something.
Yeah.
And I just wondered why we didn't get one.
Right,
Because,
and so we didn't get one, and I don't recall the exact reason, but one of the reasons, if I recall, is that we had some high influent loading, which can't be controlled by the plant. There's numerous reasons that can happen. One of them, you know, could have been pump stations all came on at the wrong time. Yours, ours. I'm not pointing fingers. And there was a lot of material that came through, it got stirred up in the channels, and the sampler came out at that time. It took a lot of heavy material and could have added to that. So there's a lot of things.
a lot of variables.
There's a lot of variables, and until flows are controlled, not only by us, but by the city into the plant, that has a likelihood of happening. If I recall, there were really, I don't recall anything that was a violation of permit that was caused by any of the operation in there. It was just, there's nothing you can do about those numbers that come in. So-
But also sits there in the summertime and lays in our lines, and then we get a heavy rain, a flush can also
Rain a lot.
give us a high loading in a short period
Right.
of time. And that's
Right.
something that can happen, and then,
If you recall, I think it was in 2015, I had done a presentation for the SAC talking about the capacities in the plant, and everybody was always focused on the hydraulic capacity, but I explained that there was 3 things that we needed to look at, and 2 of those were loading characteristics. And unfortunately, of those 3, we have no control over any of them. And so it's difficult at times. And
Well, we got Marty now, I'm sure he'll be able to.
yeah.
We want to get
Fix
that
that
award
by
Already got
next
it
year.
down.
Next year.
We do.
Yeah, next year, it's gonna be great.
You know, I was curious because I really expected us to be there because I forget who else they had there, and I thought,
Right.
why aren't we there? And these other places are.
It's
Bremerton is there or
very,
something, or?
very disappointing when it happens, especially when it's something that you can't control, because it's not something you can look at and say, hey, we need to do this better. or we need to change what we're doing.
I didn't know if we had to budget for something like, do we need a
Bring a pump
stronger-
station?
We're
Yeah,
working on
working on our,
it.
yeah, we are too, on our SCADA control systems and our pump stations, so. Mhm.
Okay.
Anything else? I always ask the hard questions, Fred.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask one, Randy,
No,
you
it's
have,
just stuff that I hear.
I look at this next proposed meeting is on, in January.
Correct.
I'm never promoting meetings, but do we need to meet again about the budget, this group, or?
We should.
We can if you like. The
I'm
reason
not-
I
I
say
don't-
that is
Just asking.
because if there's any questions, we can most certainly have it. I think that it's fairly comprehensive. We did work on simplifying this. We did cut it down quite a bit so that it is a little easier of a read. Matter of fact, I used Marty as a guinea pig because he had never seen one of our budgets, and I had him read it, and I actually had a couple staff and asked him basically, did it make sense to you? Do you understand what's going on? So I think that if you folks would like to have a meeting, then we would need to do it probably towards the end of November. I don't know when Wednesday is. And then we can definitely go over any concerns that you may have.
And usually we have two meetings, one to present the budget, then we have time to go over this, because I haven't read this document myself. And then if we have any other questions or comments, then that's kind of,
Yeah.
and then we also have a chance for you to go to the city, to the whole council, and then if they have questions, we got a chance to have some kind of a.
Well, I guess I ask you for the answer. What I'm hearing you say
Last-
possibly is, if the city,
Would like-
this committee, from the city part, if you have questions, call them, ask for a meeting. If we read it and have some questions that we all need to be with, let's call and have a meeting,
Yeah.
or, but if neither of us has a meeting, I think that's what you're kind of
I
going
guess
to.
that's the question that I would ask to our council members is, do you feel comfortable as a group blessing this and then SAC meeting again, or are you looking for this to go to full council?
It's typically going to full council.
That's
You,
what I.
you usually give a presentation.
Do we
That's
make
what
This is
the
my
obligation?
first, so-
I don't-
Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad
Say it
idea
both ways.
to go ahead and have it go to full council. It's nice for them to see you and get an idea of what's going
Okay.
on, meet you.
Well, we can potentially do that on the 23rd, pending what Brandy has to say. as
And
far
that is
as
a Tuesday, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Tuesday would be the 20th.
Oh, 20?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I will
What,
call her
October
and find out.
23rd?
Oh, you're talking November, October?
October.
Okay, yeah, then that
October
is the
23rd.
23rd. Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking about a meeting November 21st, the day before
No, no.
Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I
Was
was
it,
like-
no.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm
I
hearing,
was
and I'm
looking
just,
14th or 7th.
I think it's not-
is you're coming in to do a presentation to the full council,
Mhm.
On the
and
23rd.
whenever that may happen, and then if there's more questions beyond that from the full council subcommittee,
Right.
district, whatever, we could have another meeting either in November, whatever. But if it isn't a problem, then, and the full council goes
We're
through
good.
that, let's move on, then there would not be another meeting required, and then we would still be in January then.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it gives us time to respond if we do need to.
So looking at that, if we do that, that would be the 7th or the 14th of November would be the open days. Unless we wanted to move.
We wouldn't
that.
want to do the 7th, I don't think. I think we'd probably have to do the 14th.
Okay.
Of November?
Uh-huh, if we do that. And then the 21st is a little bit close to Thanksgiving. That would be the night before.
Okay.
Most people are going to be
I don't-
working
Yeah,
on their
most of us
turkey
are
and
trying to
traveling.
figure out
That
what.
would be a great time for me.
Oh. Fred,
I'll
you're,
be somewhere else,
you're an
but
enigma.
you should still meet.
Yes. Okay, so probably the 14th if we need to do that. So has this been turned into the city yet? No, this is brand new.
This is brand new.
Okay.
You folks are seeing.
So
it
Noah will
off the
see
press.
it and,
Yeah.
right, okay.
There's nothing new or controversial about it, or?
The new things, as described,
In the
were
cover.
we're looking at taking some of that money that's normally used to pay for debt and start investing that into a reserve account within the capital fund to ensure that we have enough capital down the road in case we need that, so the city and the district's not in a position to have to go out and get, long-term debt at a high dollar rate. Doesn't mean we might not have to assume debt, it's just that it would lessen the blow of that debt and shorten that.
I like that. I'm sure most council would.
The other thing was, we did reduce the dollar amount for the capital projects. We had a few large hits this year with the screw press project, membrane replacement, remember that was 1.5 million. So that's, we are trying to work this so that as that debt payment gets paid down, that we can retain the current rate as long as we can and make sure that we balance the funds and utilize the funds as efficiently as we can so that we're not coming for a rate increase and in 3 years having debt paid and then we are getting the money. We're trying to work through that period of debt payment and be able to maintain. I think this is the 5th year we're on the 2250 per year. And I think that looking at this, we can continue with that for several years. And that helps with the city and the district, because I think we're both in the same situation with our aging infrastructure, and we need to do whatever we can to be able to put money into our infrastructure.
And like I say, Metro is like 36. That's what they charge the cities and the districts that flow into it. So for what we're paying in there, we're doing real well, I think, compared to, I don't know what the city of Tacoma would be, but.
Wait, do you remember that?
Good answer.
Yeah.
It's like-
Mason County's is pretty ridiculous, but I'd say
What
so.
is it, really low?
I just know that like a lot of their numbers are a lot higher than
Yeah,
out
they're
here.
higher.
Oh.
Just for tying in is
Oh,
almost doubled in.
What was the rate for Belfair? It's like 110 a month for sewer,
what?
something like that. Oh, yeah,
That's kind of everywhere.
Well, that's
around
because
there.
of that huge project,
Yeah,
yeah,
that sewer project.
right, through Belfair, that was phenomenal.
yeah,
Allen is like that too,
Yeah.
It's 110 for sewer a month.
yeah,
Oh, where people can least afford it, huh?
yeah.
So do they pay monthly?
No.
Yeah, we pay
Yeah.
monthly. The connection fees there are, start at like 14,000
My
with
word.
Yeah, it was,
the first sewer connection with
Yeah.
and more if you need a grinder pump.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think, like I say, that's a big thing we're looking at both of our, what we should be charging for hookup charges. I think that
Can we do
we're gonna
that
make
study in
growth
3
pay
months?
a bigger share of what they should be. It's definitely probably gonna be going up, at least with the study we had done. It said 9,000, but I was saying to the board, if we go to 9,000, the city sits at, 6.
Yeah.
Then where are we? I mean, it doesn't make much sense.
we're
Yeah.
$3,000 richer.
Yeah. So, in other words, we
I
want
did the
something
math
that's
right.
balanced.
That's pretty good.
But you got your
In other
computer.
words,
I can't have that.
that wherever
You're
we're
awesome,
at, we try to match the same. That way we don't end up, looking like, one's trying to grab more business than the other, or that why can you charge this amount and the other one charges way more? By having something that looks like it's close anyway would be much more preferred. Because we know we're charging too little in our opinion from what we've seen. But, that's where we need a study between both of us and see where we're at.
So who would do that? Someone from Seattle?
We talked about a company the city and the district have both used before. That would be FCS Group.
FCS?
That's what they specialize in utility rate structures.
I see.
And so they have history with both the city and the district. And this is what they, this is their main focus.
Their expertise.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So the next meeting we're going to keep at January 16th,
Mhm.
unless we need a November meeting,
Correct.
which would be the second Wednesday in November.
The 14th.
Yeah, and you'll present then to the council probably on October 23rd then.
So the presentation is, I'm playing the newbie card.
Yeah.
I know I've been around a little bit, but So the presentation is informational in nature, there's not a resolution
Right.
or any, you know, like, it's just more, just keeping them in the loop.
Right, right.
And then later you will vote on the budget.
Okay, so there is a vote
Yeah.
on the budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
In other words, will both the district and the city will vote
Okay, so
to
there's two.
accept,
You're right.
say, this budget with whatever amendments or whatever we might come up with, but, yeah, there'll be a vote so that the budget's approved by both.
Is the vote usually in this body that we approve it within?
We approve it to, normally we will say, this is what we recommend to the city, or
Well,
to the,
We approve ours because
Yeah.
we're here.
Here.
You have to go to another group.
Council,
and
yeah.
Council does, okay.
You got-
So
you
we
gotta
recommend-
That was my question.
Go over where.
what we try to do is recommend, since we're this committee, to this full council to accept the budget. as
So staff will
presented.
review this and if there's any comments or whatever.
Right.
Right, so what I'll do is I will get this electronically to Noah,
Perfect.
and
That's-
then he can go through it, and then we can go that way.
Okay, sounds good. I like the idea of working together. This is wonderful.
Is there
Marty,
any way
nice
we
to
can
meet you.
accelerate that study? Do we need to, well, no. Can we get it done in 3 months?
Well, it would be nice. Here's one of the things that, and I'm sure you folks need to do too. We want this study to be as realistic as possible. So the plan for West Sound is to take the next year and make sure that we are clearly identifying and segregating out our costing for our operation and maintenance, and that we break those out. So that, the other thing we need to look at is our infrastructure, the age of our infrastructure, and what kind of capital plans that we're really looking at to replace and meet the future growth or projected growth. And that's gonna take some time. And so that's why we pretty much wanted to use 2019, still within your comp plan, past ours, but it would ensure that both entities could make that assessment so that when we provide the information to the consultant, we can provide them the best information possible so we can get the best information back on what we should be charging based on our defined needs. If we try to rush it, we may not be doing ourselves a favor.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know where the city's at with doing that type of thing, so.
We are very involved right now. And we have a new finance director. We're
Right.
doing a budget process that's very different than anything that we've done in the past. We have a new sewer comprehensive plan. We're wrapping up our water comprehensive plan. We finished a rate study a couple of years ago, and we're
Going
within a
back,
year and a
actually.
half of finishing that up. But we also have $42 million worth of capital going right now.
Mhm.
So we're gonna have to do an assessment
End of this month,
when
probably
we
then?
get to the
End of
end.
this
Well,
month,
it
yeah.
looks like maybe 2 months, right?
Yeah, once we get to the end of those project cycles and understand true costs, we're gonna have to evaluate things and really look at where we're at, so.
I think sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
you're good.
I think one thing I've been hearing loud and clear from Mark and the mayor has been the bid climate, though.
Oh, it's
is
horrible.
just-
Ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, like anything in the future, even though we're considering things plateauing, that just means they stay where they are, you know, economy-wise. And I don't know what, you know, you've been seeing, but, you know, just reading the business journal and stuff, it's like crazy land out there.
Well, the engineering construction cost index for August was over 7% increase.
Wow.
And that means that, you know, these contractors are gonna jack everything up over 7%. So if that, you know, for the annual since last year, so over 7%, I have the exact number, I don't recall what it was, but it's over
Sorry.
7% in 1 year's time,
Mhm.
which is substantial.
Yeah.
So your, you know, $10 million project, just got a big kick to it, yeah.
Yep, get your calculator
Yeah.
out there.
Well, and the thing is, like I
So,
say, if we can,
yeah.
if we can put some projects together as a bigger project for the community, some from the district, some from the city, like type projects, so we're not, I mean, we can't do like a pump station and replacing water lines, but but if you guys are doing water lines and we're doing water lines, or we're doing sewer and that,
I get it.
we could mix it, and at least maybe we can get a better bid. I don't know what else to do. This is the worst. I've been a commissioner for 41 years. This is the worst climate for bids that I've ever seen. So-
Do you have any idea what they're charging to drill a well? We heard last night from one of our consultants that another entity just drilled approximately an 800-foot well, and it cost them $1.3 million to drill
Well, I can't speak to their drilling process.
and develop. And
But what I-
very
but-
all over the place, yeah.
Yeah, but what I can say is that the steel tariffs are driving ductile and casing prices through the roof. And the ripple effect of that is gonna be in the interim, people are gonna pay more. And what we're hearing is that by February, we're probably gonna see a shortage of materials because people are gonna stop stocking it. Because it's so expensive. I don't think that will affect us as much because it's not like we have 10-mile long, 16-inch pipelines to run. But it will mean that some of the more exotic fittings and things like that will be harder to get. The lead times will just be a lot longer. So, yeah.
Always like ending meetings on a high note.
I know,
Yeah.
such a happy note. It's like,
No, but I mean, it comes into the fact when you're looking at budgeting in the out years,
Mhm.
you know, that it's gonna be screwy.
Yeah.
And probably miss the target, miss the mark, so.
Yeah, that's for sure.
All right. Anything else for the good of the order? Then I think we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank
This
you.
was very efficient.
Ah.